72 hours later, across 47 star systems, humanity struck. Captain Sora was there when it happened. Her reconnaissance ship had been assigned to follow the Eternal Sentinel during the opening phase of Operation Hammer Falls. She watched from a safe distance as the massive warship emerged into the Krell-occupied Meridian system. The Krell had fortified this system heavily. 3 planets converted into military bases, orbital defense platforms, over 800 warships, millions of Krell soldiers. It was one of their most important strongholds. The Eternal Sentinel didn't hesitate. It dropped out of faster-than-light travel and immediately opened fire. The orbital platforms were destroyed in the first 30 seconds. The Krell fleet scrambled to respond, but they were too slow. Commander Hana's tactical precision was devastating. Every shot disabled or destroyed a target. Nothing was wasted. Echo 9, this is Sentinel Actual, came Fleet Admiral Tewu's voice. Begin documentation protocols. The galaxy needs to see what happens here. Yes, sir, Sora replied, activating all her recording equipment. What she documented was history. The battle for Meridian lasted 3 hours. 800 Krell warships were destroyed. The military installations on all 3 planets were neutralized. And most importantly, the Krell slave pens were breached. Hundreds of thousands of prisoners from dozens of species were freed. Coalition rescue ships moved in immediately. Medical Officer Sohi led teams from the Sentinel, treating the wounded and sick. Many prisoners hadn't eaten in weeks. Some were near death, but they were free. Sora recorded everything. The tears of grateful families reunited. The joy of people seeing the sun again after years in dark cells. The moment when a young Valorian child asked her mother if the scary bugs were really gone. They're gone, the mother said, holding her child tight. The humans saved us. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. At the Battle of Crimson Reach, Vice Admiral Sunho commanded the UNS Dawnbreaker, another Sentinel-class ship. He coordinated with Commander Jinho, who led coalition forces in securing the system after the Krell were eliminated. You're very good at this, Jinho told Sunho after they successfully liberated 12 colonies. Sunho smiled. We've trained for 200 years. We better be good at it. In the Outer Rim territories, Colonel Heejin led ground forces to liberate occupied worlds. The Krell had enslaved entire populations, forcing them to mine resources and build weapons. Heejin's troops were efficient and precise. They disabled Krell installations without harming the civilians nearby. One old farmer approached Heejin after his planet was freed. Are you angels? He asked in a trembling voice. No, Heejin replied gently. We're just humans, and we're here to help. The liberation effort expanded rapidly. More coalition ships joined the operation. Admiral Hyun coordinated refugee evacuations while human forces pushed deeper into Krell territory. Dr. Yuna worked with human scientists, documenting everything they learned about Krell biology and technology. Understanding the enemy would prevent future threats. Minho found himself working aboard the Eternal Sentinel, helping establish communication networks between human and coalition forces. He worked alongside Lieutenant Yuna, learning about human technology. Your systems are decades ahead of ours, he said one day, watching her integrate 12 different communication protocols simultaneously. We had time to develop them, Yuna replied. No wars, no distractions. Just research and preparation. That's the advantage of patience. But not everything went smoothly. The Krell fought desperately in their core systems. High Chieftain Vraktar, the same leader who had fled from the Eternal Sentinel, gathered every remaining ship for a final assault. 500 vessels loaded with every weapon they had. Their target was the Eternal Sentinel itself. Sir, massive Krell fleet incoming, the sensor officer reported. They're all heading for us. It's a suicide attack. Tewu stood from his command chair. Commander Hana. They've packed their ships with explosives. If even one of them reaches us, it could damage our shields. They're desperate, sir. Captain Do-hyun, how many fighters can you launch? All of them, sir. Every pilot on this ship is ready. Tewu looked at the tactical display. 500 desperate enemies willing to die just to hurt them. It was the Krell's last stand. Launch all fighters. All batteries prepare to fire. We end this today. The space around the Eternal Sentinel filled with human fighters. Hundreds of small fast craft that moved with perfect coordination. Behind them, the massive warship's guns charged to full power. The Krell came screaming out of faster-than-light travel. All 500 ships at once. They were close, too close. If they detonated their explosive payloads, the blast would be devastating. But Commander Hana had calculated for this. All batteries fire pattern Omega. Simultaneous strike. Every gun on the Eternal Sentinel fired at the exact same moment. The beams of energy converged on the Krell fleet, creating a wall of destruction. Ships exploded before they could detonate their payloads. The fighters picked off the survivors. It was brutal and efficient. At the center of the Krell fleet, Vraktar's command ship pushed forward desperately. He knew he was going to die. He just wanted to hurt the humans first. To prove the Krell were not weak, a single shot from the Sentinel's main gun ended him. The beam was so powerful it didn't just destroy the ship, it vaporized it completely. The High Chieftain of the Krell Dominion simply ceased to exist. Captain Sora watched from her ship. She had seen many battles now, but this one felt different. This was the end. The final battle. The moment when the Krell threat ended forever. The Krell are broken, she whispered. Across the galaxy, the remaining Krell forces surrendered or fled. Without their leaders, without their strongest fleets, they lost the will to fight. Some ran into deep space, never to be seen again. Others surrendered to coalition forces, begging for mercy. The war that had ravaged the galaxy for 3 cycles ended in 17 days. 17 days from when the Eternal Sentinel first appeared to the moment the last Krell stronghold fell. Admiral Hyun stood in the Terminus Gate Command Center, watching reports flow in from across the galaxy. Liberation after liberation, colony after colony freed. The numbers were staggering. Over 3 billion people rescued from Krell enslavement. 57 star systems secured. The Krell military completely destroyed. Sir, final casualty reports, an officer said, handing him a data pad. Hyun read the numbers. Coalition forces lost 4,000 personnel during the liberation effort. 4,000 brave souls who died freeing others. It hurt, but it was so much less than it could have been. Human casualties, 0. Not a single Sentinel-class ship was significantly damaged. Not a single human soldier killed. Their technology was simply that superior. Commander Jinwoo explained it to Jinho later. We designed these ships to be nearly indestructible. Multiple redundant systems, shields that can tank planet-killing weapons. We didn't build them to win battles. We built them to end wars. The liberation effort continued for weeks after the fighting stopped. Coalition and human forces worked together, rebuilding worlds, providing medical care, returning refugees to their homes. It was slow, difficult work, but it was hopeful work. Dr. Yuna spent her time documenting everything. She recorded interviews with freed prisoners, studied the ruins of Krell technology, and wrote detailed reports about humanity's return. Future generations needed to know what happened here, how the galaxy came together, how humanity returned not as conquerors but as saviors. One day she interviewed a young girl who had been rescued from a Krell prison camp. "What do you remember most?" Yuna asked gently. The girl thought for a moment. The darkness. It was always dark in the camp. But then the humans came and they brought light, real light. I hadn't seen the sun in 2 years. Yuna felt tears in her eyes. And now? Now I'm going home. The humans are taking us home. In the command center of the Eternal Sentinel, Fleet Admiral Taewoo met with Admiral Hyun one final time before the Sentinel ships moved to their patrol positions. What happens now? Hyun asked. Will humanity stay? Rejoin the galactic community? Taewoo looked out at the stars. We'll stay, but not the way we were before. The Sentinel ships will take up positions across the galaxy, watching for threats. We'll respond to emergencies, protect the innocent, and help maintain peace. But we won't rule. We won't dictate policy. We're guardians, not governors. The galaxy will want to thank you. They'll want to honor what you've done. We don't need thanks. We did what we were built to do. What we trained for. The only honor we need is knowing the galaxy is safe. He turned to Hyun. But the coalition can help us. We'll need allies. Friends who understand our mission. Can you do that? Hyun extended his hand. It would be an honor, Fleet Admiral. They shook hands, sealing an alliance that would last for generations. Across the galaxy, people celebrated. Worlds that had been under Krell occupation for years held festivals. Families reunited. Children played in streets that had been battlefields. Hope returned to places that had known only fear. On one liberated world, someone painted a mural on a wall. It showed the Eternal Sentinel hovering over a city, its lights shining down like a protective star. Beneath it, in multiple languages, were the words, "They answered the call." Captain Sora saw the mural during a supply run. The shuttle carrying Admiral Hyun, Commander Jinho, and Dr. Yuna approached the Eternal Sentinel slowly. Even up close, the ship's size was overwhelming. The shuttle could have fit inside one of the Sentinel's point defense turrets. Docking Bay 7, the shuttle pilot announced nervously. They're guiding us in. The bay they entered was larger than most Coalition space stations. Rows of fighters and support craft lined the walls. Repair drones moved with mechanical efficiency. Everything was clean, organized, and clearly maintained by a crew that knew exactly what they were doing. As they stepped off the shuttle, a young woman in a dark blue uniform approached. She saluted crisply. "Welcome aboard the Sentinel. I'm Lieutenant Yunha, Bridge Coordination Officer. Fleet Admiral Tae-woo is waiting for you in the conference room. Please follow me." They walked through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The walls were lined with displays showing ship status, star charts, and information in human writing. Crew members passed by, each one nodding respectfully to the visitors. Everyone moved with purpose and confidence. "How many crew does this ship have?" Jinho asked. 15,000 active personnel, sir," Yunha replied, "plus another 5,000 support staff and civilian specialists. We're designed for long-term operations without resupply." 15,000 people. The entire ship was a floating city. They entered a conference room with a large table and panoramic windows showing the stars. Fleet Admiral Tae-woo stood waiting, along with several other officers. He was tall for a human, with gray hair and eyes that seemed to see everything. He wore a simple uniform with minimal decorations. "Admiral Hyun, thank you for coming." Tae-woo extended his hand in the human gesture of greeting. Hyun shook it awkwardly, not used to physical contact with strangers. "Please sit. We have much to discuss." Once everyone was seated, Tae-woo gestured to a woman beside him. "This is Commander Hana, my Chief Tactical Officer. And this is Captain Do-hyun, who led the fighter operation you witnessed. We also have Commander Jinwoo, our Chief Engineer, on standby to answer technical questions." Dr. Yuna couldn't contain herself. "Fleet Admiral, what happened? Where did humanity go? What is Project Sentinel?" Tae-woo smiled slightly. "Direct questions. I appreciate that. The truth is both simple and complicated. 200 years ago, humanity was expanding into the galaxy. We were traders, explorers, scientists. We weren't warriors. We didn't have powerful weapons or large fleets." He brought up a holographic display showing star maps. "But our scientists noticed something. Patterns in galactic history. Wars that repeated. Aggressive species rising up, destroying civilizations, then collapsing themselves. The cycle repeated every few hundred years. We calculated that another major conflict was coming. Something bigger than anything before. The Krell," Hyun said quietly. "We didn't know it would be the Krell specifically, but we knew someone would threaten all sentient life. So humanity made a decision. We withdrew from galactic affairs. We moved our people to hidden colonies in dark space far from known trade routes, and we started building." Commander Hana continued the explanation. "Project Sentinel. 12 warships designed to protect the galaxy from existential threats. Each one is 40 to 50 kilometers long. Each one carries enough firepower to fight entire fleets. We spent 2 centuries building them, testing them, training crews, waiting for the day we would be needed." Jinho leaned forward. "Why didn't you tell anyone? Why let the galaxy think you were gone?" Tae-woo's expression grew sad. "Because we learned something about sentient species. When one civilization has overwhelming power, others become dependent, or resentful, or they try to steal that power for themselves. We saw it happen throughout history. So we decided to remain hidden until we were truly needed, until the threat was so great that our intervention would be welcomed rather than feared." "You let the Krell kill millions while you waited," Jinho said, his voice harsh. "Yes." Tae-woo didn't look away, and that decision haunts every person on this ship. We watched systems burn. We heard the distress calls. But if we had revealed ourselves too early, the Krell might have adapted. They might have found allies among other aggressive species. The war would have spread further. We waited for the moment when we could end the threat completely, not just delay it." The room fell silent. Yuna spoke softly. "How many ships like this do you have?" 12 are operational. The Eternal Sentinel is the flagship. Our sister ships are moving into position across Krell-occupied territory as we speak. Within 1 week, we will launch a coordinated assault on every Krell stronghold simultaneously. Admiral Hyun processed this information. You're going to destroy them? Yes. The Krell have proven they cannot coexist with other species. They do not negotiate. They do not surrender. They only consume and destroy. So we will remove them as a threat, permanently. That's genocide, Jinho said. That's survival, Hana replied coolly. The Krell made their choice when they started killing. We're simply ensuring they can't continue. Before Jinho could argue, alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. Lieutenant Yunha checked her datapad. Sir, we have incoming contacts. Krell reinforcement fleet. They're bringing 500 ships, Taewoo stood calmly. Well, they're persistent. Admiral Hyun, would you and your staff like to observe from the bridge? You should see what Project Sentinel can truly do. They followed Taewoo to the main bridge, a massive room filled with crew stations and holographic displays. Through the forward windows, space looked peaceful. Then the Krell arrived, 500 ships all heading directly for the Eternal Sentinel. Sir, they're targeting us directly, Hana reported. Suicide run. They know they can't win, but they want to damage us. Commander Hana, you have tactical command, Taewoo said, sitting in his command chair. Show our guests what precision warfare looks like. Hana's fingers moved across her control panel. All batteries load spread pattern 7. Hammer drones deploy in defensive sphere. Fighter wings Charlie and Delta. Intercept incoming at maximum range. Captain Do-hyun, you are cleared to engage. The Krell fleet charged forward, weapons firing wildly. They weren't trying to survive. They were trying to die while doing as much damage as possible, but they never got close. Do-hyun's fighters intercepted the first wave, their weapons tearing through Krell ships with brutal efficiency. The hammer drones formed a perimeter, destroying anything that got through, and behind it all, the Eternal Sentinel's main batteries fired with calm precision. Each shot destroyed multiple targets. Yuna watched in fascination. It's like watching a surgeon. Every move is calculated. Nothing wasted. That's exactly what it is, Commander Jinwoo said, appearing beside her. He was a stocky man with grease stains on his uniform. We don't just overwhelm enemies with firepower. We calculate the most efficient way to neutralize threats. Every shot counts. Every drone has a purpose. The battle lasted 8 minutes. 500 Krell ships became debris. The Eternal Sentinel didn't have a scratch. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the surviving Krell. The communications officer announced. Audio only. It's their High Chieftain, Vraktar. Put it through, Taewoo ordered. The voice that came through was harsh, filled with clicking sounds and rage. You are the apex. The ultimate predator. We thought we were strongest. We were wrong. Tell me, human, what are you? Taewoo leaned forward. We are what happens when a peaceful species decides to prepare for war. We are what happens when intelligence is focused on protection instead of conquest. We are the Sentinels, and you made a mistake coming to our galaxy. Then finish it. Hunt us, we know you will. Yes, we will. The transmission ended. Vraktar's ship fled into faster-than-light travel, carrying the message to the rest of the Krell Dominion. Admiral Hyun turned to Taewoo. They'll warn the others. Every Krell in the galaxy will know about you now. Good, Taewoo said calmly. Let them know. Let them understand what's coming. And let every civilization they've terrorized know that help has arrived. He stood, addressing everyone on the bridge. Send the signal to all Sentinel ships. Operation Hammer Falls begins in 72 hours. We're going to end this war. Commander Hana brought up a massive tactical display showing the entire galaxy. Red markers indicated Krell-occupied systems. Blue markers showed where the 12 Sentinel ships were positioning themselves. We'll hit them everywhere at once, she explained. They won't have time to regroup or reinforce. Within 2 weeks, the Krell Dominion will cease to exist. Jinho studied the display, his tactical mind working. This is the most coordinated military operation I've ever seen. The planning alone must have taken years. We've been planning for 200 years, Taewoo said. Now we execute. He turned to Admiral Hyun. We'll need your help. Coalition forces can assist with search and rescue operations, securing liberated worlds, providing aid to refugees. Can we count on you? Hyun straightened. Fleet Admiral, after what you've done for us, we're honored to help however we can. Then let's get to work. We have a galaxy to save. Captain Sora gripped the controls of her reconnaissance ship as explosions bloomed around her. Her small vessel darted between larger warships, recording battle data for Coalition Command. She had seen 17 crew members die today. Good people, friends, The Krell were everywhere, their green weapons fire cutting through coalition defenses like they were nothing. Echo 9 to command, Sector 7 is collapsing. The Krell are pushing through, she reported, her voice steady despite the fear in her chest. Acknowledged, Echo 9. Fall back to, wait. The comm officer's voice changed. Captain, we need you to redirect to grid coordinates X47. Something is happening there. Something big. Sora checked her sensors and felt her blood run cold. The energy reading was impossible. Nothing generated that much power. Command, my sensors must be broken. This reading can't be real. It's real, Captain. We're seeing it too. Get eyes on it now. She pushed her engines to maximum and raced toward the coordinates. Other ships were pulling back from the front lines, also confused by what their sensors showed. Even the Krell seemed to hesitate, their attacks slowing as they detected the anomaly. Then Sora saw it. Space was tearing open. Not like a jump gate or wormhole. This was different. Reality itself was being folded back like someone opening a curtain. Brilliant white light poured through the tear, and from that light something emerged. A ship. But calling it a ship was like calling a star a candle. It was enormous beyond comprehension. Sora's computer struggled to calculate its size. 47 kilometers long, 12 kilometers wide. The hull was dark gray metal that seemed to absorb light. Massive turrets lined its surface, hundreds of them. Launch bays large enough to hold entire fleets. And along the bow, inscribed in letters 50 meters tall, were human words. Yun's Eternal Sentinel. Oh my God, Sora whispered. Command, are you seeing this? In the Terminus Gate Command Center, Admiral Hyun stared at the largest holographic display. His mouth hung open. Commander Jinho stood beside him, equally shocked. The entire staff was frozen, watching the impossible vessel that dwarfed everything else in the system. Sir, the sensor officer said shakily, I'm reading power signatures consistent with 12 fusion cores. No, wait, 20, 30. He looked up in disbelief. Sir, that ship has over 40 independent power sources, each one stronger than our entire station's reactor. Dr. Yuna pushed through the crowd, her eyes wide with excitement and tears. It worked. Oh God, it actually worked. They came. The humans came. Incoming transmission, Minho announced. His voice cracked. It's from the vessel. They're hailing us on old human frequencies. Put it through, Hyun ordered. The speakers crackled to life. The voice that came through was calm, measured, and spoke perfect galactic standard with a strange accent no one had heard in 200 years. This is Fleet Admiral Tae Woo of the United Nations Space Command, commanding officer of the UNS Eternal Sentinel. We received your distress call. Identify yourself and your situation. Hyun found his voice. This is Admiral Hyun of the Galactic Coalition Defense Force. We are under attack by a hostile force called the Krell. They have been destroying worlds across the galaxy. We are heavily outnumbered and cannot hold much longer. We have civilians behind our lines. Billions of them. A pause. Then, understood, Admiral. How many enemy vessels? Approximately 20,000 warships. Another pause, longer this time. Hyun thought he heard someone in the background say, only 20,000? Then Taewoo's voice returned. Admiral Hyun, pull your forces back 3,000 kilometers. We will handle the hostile fleet. Sir, with respect, there are 20,000 of them, even with your ship's size, Admiral. The voice was firm but not unkind. You called for help, we answered. Now please pull your people back. What happens next will be dangerous if you're too close. Hyun looked at Jinho, who nodded slowly. All ships, Hyun transmitted, withdraw 3,000 kilometers from the Krell fleet. Emergency retreat. Move now. The coalition vessels began pulling back. The Krell, seeing what they thought was a full retreat, pushed forward aggressively. Their fleet surged toward the Terminus Gate, weapons charging for a final devastating volley. Then the Eternal Sentinel moved. For something so massive, it was impossibly fast. The ship accelerated to attack speed in seconds, positioning itself between the coalition fleet and the Krell armada. The Krell didn't hesitate. They saw a single target, no matter how large, and opened fire with everything they had. 20,000 warships fired at once. The barrage was blinding. Enough firepower to shatter a planet. Green energy bolts, plasma torpedoes, kinetic projectiles, all converging on the human vessel. Sora watched through her ship's cameras, expecting to see the Eternal Sentinel torn apart. Instead, she saw something that made her question reality. The ship's shields lit up. Not with the flickering, struggling glow of coalition shields under stress. These shields were solid, brilliant blue and completely unaffected by the assault. The Krell bombardment washed over them like rain against a mountain. The Sentinel didn't even slow down. Impossible, Sora breathed. On the bridge of the Eternal Sentinel, Fleet Admiral Taewoo sat in his command chair, watching tactical displays. He was a man in his early 50s with gray hair and calm eyes that had seen too much war. Around him, his crew worked with efficient precision. Commander Hana, tactical analysis, he said quietly. Commander Hana stood at the tactical station, studying the Krell formation. She was younger than Taewoo, perhaps 40, with sharp features and sharper mind. Sir, enemy fleet is clustered in a standard swarm pattern. Their command ships are in the center, protected by the outer vessels. Their weapons are primitive but effective in large numbers. Shields are biological regenerative type. Counters, standard dispersal patterns will work. Recommend hammer drones for the outer fleet and main batteries for command vessels. Estimate 94% destruction rate with minimal ammunition expenditure. Taewoo nodded. Make it so. Captain Dohyun, launch fighter wings. Clear a path. Captain Dohyun was already in his flight suit, ready to launch. His voice came through the comm from the fighter bay. Yes, sir. All wings launch in 5 seconds. The massive launch bays opened and fighters poured out. Not dozens. Hundreds. They moved in perfect formation, each one faster and more maneuverable than anything the galaxy had seen. The Krell tried to intercept them, but the human fighters were too fast, too precise. They tore through Krell squadrons like they were standing still. All batteries fire, Taewoo ordered. The Eternal Sentinel opened fire. The main guns were nothing like coalition weapons. They fired beams of concentrated energy that simply erased whatever they touched. Krell ships didn't explode. They evaporated. The secondary batteries launched missiles that split into dozens of smaller projectiles, each one independently targeting a Krell vessel. Then the hammer drones deployed. Sora watched in amazement as thousands of small autonomous weapons emerged from the Sentinel. Each drone was only 10 meters long, but they moved with frightening intelligence. They swarmed over Krell ships, cutting through hulls with precision lasers, disabling engines, destroying weapon systems. The Krell fleet tried to adapt. They focused fire on the drones, on the fighters, on the Sentinel itself. Nothing worked. The human technology was simply beyond them. Commander Jinho watched from the terminus gate, his tactical mind trying to process what he was seeing. The Krell are using the same tactics that destroyed our fleets. But against the humans, it's useless. It's like watching children fight a trained soldier. Admiral Hyun nodded slowly. We never had a chance against the Krell, but the Krell never had a chance against humanity. 37 minutes. That's how long it took. 37 minutes for the Eternal Sentinel to cripple or destroy a fleet of 20,000 warships. The surviving Krell vessels, those that could still move, fled into deep space. Their command ship tried to run, but a single shot from the Sentinel's main gun turned it into vapor. Silence fell over the battlefield. Debris floated in space where the Krell fleet had been. Coalition ships hung in formation, their crews too stunned to speak. Taewoo's voice came over the general channel. This is Fleet Admiral Taewoo to all coalition vessels. The immediate threat has been neutralized. Please stand by for medical and repair assistance. Admiral Hyun, with your permission, I would like to meet with you and your command staff aboard the Eternal Sentinel. We have much to discuss. Hyun looked around at his shocked officers. Dr. Yuna was crying. Minyo was laughing in disbelief. Jinho just stared at the massive human ship. Permission granted, Fleet Admiral, Hyun said. And thank you. You saved us all. You're welcome, Admiral. Welcome to Project Sentinel. The terminus gate hung in space like a massive metal ring, 30 kilometers across. Ancient builders from a forgotten civilization had constructed it thousands of years ago. No one remembered its original purpose, but now it served as the Coalition's last defensive position. On one side lay the core worlds. On the other, the approaching Krell Armada. Admiral Hyun stood in the command center of the station built into the gate structure. Holographic displays surrounded him, showing hundreds of ships taking position. Every vessel the Coalition could gather was here. Battlecruisers, destroyers, fighters, cargo ships with weapons bolted to their hulls. Even civilian transports volunteered to stay and fight. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. Status report, Hyun said to his staff. Commander Jinho stepped forward. He had arrived from Helion 7 6 days ago. Dark circles hung under his eyes. We have 417 combat-capable vessels in position, sir. Another 63 ships are armed transports and civilian volunteers. Total crew complement, 240,000 personnel. And the Krell? Jinho's jaw tightened. Long-range sensors show at least 20,000 warships approaching. They'll reach firing range in 36 hours, 20,000 against 400. The math was simple and brutal. Hyun had fought in 17 battles during his career. He knew when a fight was winnable and when it was suicide. This was suicide, but running wasn't an option. Behind them were 40 billion civilians. If the gate fell, those people had nowhere to go. Then we have 36 hours to prepare, Hyun said calmly. Deploy all mines. Set up the defense grid. Every gun, every missile, everything we have. Yes, sir. As Jinho left to coordinate the defenses, a young woman approached. Dr. Yuna wore a white research coat covered in coffee stains. Her black hair was pulled into a messy bun. She carried a data tablet and looked excited, which seemed wrong given the circumstances. Admiral, I need to show you something, she said quickly. Hyun turned to her. Doctor, unless it's a weapon that can destroy 20,000 ships, I don't have time. It might be better than that. Yuna activated her tablet, projecting images into the air. I've been studying human artifacts from the old archives. Before humanity disappeared, they were working on something called Project Sentinel. Look at these schematics. The hologram showed partial blueprints. Hyun saw fragments of hull designs, power systems he didn't recognize, and weapon configurations that made no sense according to known physics. What am I looking at? I don't know exactly. The files are encrypted and corrupted, but Admiral, look at the scale indicators. She zoomed in on a measurement bar. If these numbers are correct, the humans were building ships over 40 kilometers long. That's impossible. Nothing that large could function. But the math in these files, it's brilliant. Decades ahead of anything we have. Hyun studied the images. 40 kilometers? The coalition's largest dreadnought was 3 kilometers long. Doctor, humanity was never a major power. They were peaceful traders and explorers. Why would they build something like this? That's what I've been asking. Yuna pulled up more files. I found personal logs from human scientists. They talk about detecting something. A pattern in galactic conflicts. Wars that repeat across time. They believed a major threat was coming. Something that would endanger all life. So they started Project Sentinel. A defense fleet, Hyun said slowly. Yes, they spent decades building it in secret, out in dark space where no one could see. Then they withdrew from galactic affairs and we never heard from them again. Everyone assumed they died out or just didn't want contact. But Admiral, what if they were still out there? What if Project Sentinel actually exists? Hyun wanted to believe her. God, he wanted to believe that somewhere, powerful allies were waiting. But 200 years had passed. Even if it's real, even if humans are still alive somewhere, they don't know we're in danger. There's no way to contact them. Yuna smiled. Actually, there might be. I found beacon protocols in the old data. Automated systems humans left behind. If we can activate one and send the right signal, it might reach them. How? There's a beacon integrated into Terminus Gate's communication array. I think the old builders and humans work together. If I can access it? She trailed off, looking uncertain for the first time. It's a long shot, Admiral. Maybe nothing happens. Maybe humans are extinct, but it's something. Hyun looked at the holographic displays showing the approaching Krell fleet. 20,000 ships, 400 defenders. They were going to die here. All of them. But maybe, just maybe, they could do something meaningful before the end. Do it, he said. Activate the beacon. Yuna's face lit up. Thank you, sir. I'll need access to the main communication array and... She paused. And someone who understands complex signal systems. Someone smart. Take Minho. He's the best comm officer we have. 2 hours later, Yuna and Minho worked in the depths of Terminus Gate's communication center. The room was old, filled with technology from multiple civilizations layered over thousands of years. Dust-covered cables and conduits that hadn't been active in centuries. Are you sure this will work? Minho asked, connecting a modern terminal to an ancient control panel. No, Yuna admitted, but I'm sure we have to try. She input commands following instructions she had pieced together from corrupted files. The ancient system resisted at first, then slowly came to life. Lights flickered on panels that hadn't glowed in 200 years. A low hum filled the room. There, Yuna pointed at a screen showing alien script that slowly translated into Galactic Standard. The beacon is active. Now we need to send the signal. The human distress code. Minho's fingers flew across his keyboard. I'm boosting our transmitter using the gate's power core. If there's anyone out there, they'll hear this across half the galaxy. Do it. Minho pressed the final key. The beacon sent its signal into the void. Carried on frequencies that hadn't been used in 2 centuries. It traveled faster than light. Pushed by technology no one fully understood. The message was simple: help. Please help. Nothing happened. How long until we know if it worked? Minho asked. Yuna shook her head. I don't know. Hours? Days? Maybe never. They returned to the command center to find organized chaos. Ships were taking final positions. Weapons were being armed. Soldiers said goodbye to families over video calls. Everyone knew what was coming. 36 hours became 24. Then 12. Then the Krell arrived. They came like a swarm of metal locusts. Thousands of organic ships, each one a weapon of war. Their hulls were dark and chitinous. Their weapons glowed with sickly green energy. At the center of the fleet was the command ship, a massive thing 5 kilometers long, covered in spines and armor. Admiral Hyun stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the enemy approach. All ships, this is Admiral Hyun. Today we stand between evil and everyone we love. We may not win, but we will make them remember us. We will buy time for those behind us to evacuate. We will show the Krell that the coalition does not break easily. Charge all weapons. Prepare to engage, 400 voices responded. Yes, sir. The Krell fleet opened fire first. Green energy bolts streaked across space like falling stars. Coalition shields flared and died. Ships exploded. The battle had begun. Admiral Hyun watched his fleet fight with desperate courage. They took down 3 Krell ships for every one they lost. But the math was still impossible. They were being overwhelmed, sir, a sensor officer shouted. I'm detecting something at the edge of the system. Massive energy signature. I've never seen readings like this. Hyun turned to the display. Show me. The screen showed a spike of energy so large it distorted space itself. Something was coming. Something big. Could it be more Krell? Jinho asked. No, this is different. The energy signature doesn't match anything in our database. The whole bridge crew watched as the signature grew stronger. Closer. And then, space itself seemed to tear open and something emerged from the darkness. Something massive. Commander Jinho stood on the observation deck of Outpost Helion 7, watching the stars through the reinforced glass. His hands were clasped behind his back, but they trembled slightly. 3 months ago, those stars had been peaceful. Now they represented death approaching from the darkness. The Krell had come without warning. Their ships emerged from unknown space like locusts, swarming across the outer colonies. The first planet they hit was Andor Prime. 16 million people lived there. Families, children, farmers, teachers. Within 6 hours, the planet burned. The Krell didn't just kill. They consumed everything. Resources, technology, even the bodies of the dead. Nothing remained but scorched rock. Jinho had seen the footage. Every commander in the coalition had. The Galactic Council wanted them to understand what they faced. He wished they hadn't shown him. The scream still echoed in his dreams. Sir, another transmission from the Crimson Nebula sector. The voice belonged to Minho, a young communications officer barely 23 years old. His voice cracked. It's the final message. Jinho turned away from the window. Play it. The holographic display flickered to life. A Valorian captain appeared, her blue skin covered in ash and blood. Behind her, the bridge of her ship burned. Sparks flew from shattered consoles. The camera shook as explosions rocked the vessel. This is Captain Valora of the Coalition defense ship Starhaven. We are lost. The Krell fleet outnumbers us 40-1. They don't respond to hails. They don't take prisoners. To anyone receiving this, or run, just run. Don't try to... The transmission ended in static and fire. Minho stood frozen, his dark eyes wide. The other officers on the bridge looked down at their stations. No one spoke. What could they say? The Starhaven had been a battle cruiser, one of the Coalition's strongest vessels. It died like all the others. Jinho walked to the central command console. How many ships did we lose at Crimson Nebula? 47 confirmed destroyed, sir, replied Lieutenant Dae-hyun from the tactical station. Another 12 are missing, presumed destroyed. Over 60,000 personnel, 60,000 people, 60,000 lives erased in a single battle. And the Krell kept coming. The coalition had tried everything. They sent diplomats. The Krell killed them. They offered resources. The Krell took the resources and killed the messengers. They assembled their greatest fleet at the Azure Line. The Krell smashed through it like it was made of paper. No one understood the Krell. They looked like massive insects, each one 3 meters tall with armored carapaces that could withstand plasma fire. They had 4 arms, each ending in blade-like appendages. Their ships were organic, grown rather than built, and they were everywhere. "Sir, incoming transmission from Coalition Command." Minho's voice brought Jinho back to the present. Admiral Hyun's face appeared on the screen. The old man looked exhausted. Deep lines creased his face and his gray hair seemed grayer than last week. "Commander Jinho, I have your new orders." Jinho straightened. "We're ready, sir." "No." Hyun shook his head slowly. "No, you're not. None of us are. But that doesn't matter anymore." He paused, and for a moment Jinho thought the Admiral might cry. "You are to evacuate Helion 7. All personnel, all equipment you can carry. Fall back to Terminus Gate. Evacuate." Jinho felt his stomach drop. "Sir, if we abandon Helion 7, there's nothing between the Krell and the core worlds. Billions of people. I know what it means, Commander." Hyun's voice cracked like a whip. Then he softened. "I know. But Helion 7 cannot hold. You have 300 personnel and 6 light cruisers. The Krell are bringing 1,000 warships. You would die, and it wouldn't buy us even a day." He leaned closer to the camera. "We're gathering everything we have left at Terminus Gate. Every ship, every soldier. We make our stand there. If we fall, at least we fall fighting together." Jinho wanted to argue. He wanted to say they could hold. But he had seen the reports. He knew the numbers. Helion 7 would fall. The only question was whether anyone would survive to fight another day. "Understood, sir. We'll begin evacuation immediately." "Good, and Jinho?" Hyun's expression shifted to something strange. "Hope? Desperation? There's something else. We found old records in the Central Archives. Records about humanity." Jinho frowned. "Humanity?" "The humans disappeared 200 years ago. They withdrew from galactic affairs and vanished." "Yes, but the records mention something called Project Sentinel. Before they left, humans were building something. Something massive. The records are incomplete, but..." Hyun trailed off. "But what, sir?" "But one of our xenoarchaeologists, Dr. Yuna, believes the humans might have left behind defense systems. Automated stations, perhaps. Long shots, Commander. Very long shots. But we're activating every old human beacon we can find. Maybe something will answer." Jinho didn't believe it. Humans were gone. They had been a minor civilization anyway, nothing special. But he nodded. "Every chance matters now, sir." "Every chance," Hyun agreed. "Safe travels, Commander. See you at Terminus Gate." The transmission ended. Jinho turned to his crew. They were all looking at him, waiting for orders. Minho, barely out of the academy. Daehyun, who had 3 children on one of the core worlds. Engineer Sujin, who always hummed while she worked. Pilot Borum, who made terrible jokes to keep spirits up, all of them looking at him to tell them what to do. "Begin evacuation procedures," he said quietly. "All non-essential personnel to the transport ships. Essential crew remains until the last moment. We take everything we can carry and we destroy the rest. The Krell won't get anything from us." "Yes, sir." The responses came sharp and immediate. As the crew scattered to their tasks, Captain Sora's voice crackled over the comm system. "Commander, this is Recon Ship Echo 9. I'm detecting movement at the edge of the system. Multiple contacts. Krell advanced scouts, I think." Jinho's jaw tightened. "How long do we have?" 14 hours, maybe less if they have a main fleet nearby." "Understood." "Get back here, Captain." "We're leaving. 14 hours. 14 hours to pack up 3 years of operations, to abandon the outpost that had been their home, to retreat toward what might be their final battle." Jinho looked out the window one last time. Somewhere out there in the darkness, the Krell were coming. An unstoppable wave of death and destruction. And somewhere, according to old legends, humanity had left something behind. He didn't believe in legends. But right now, the galaxy needed a miracle.